All right. And so, welcome, everyone. Empower your evolution. And so, today we are focusing on divorcing your patterns. You hear me? Today we're talking about divorcing your patterns. And so, a lot of times when we are in transition, sometimes you forget to divorce your patterns, meaning that there are some parts of us that consciously and a lot of times subconsciously that we hold on to. And especially pretty much, I always like to say, oh, we're all good people, and it's like, hey, I'm good. I don't need to change anything about me. I just need something new. It's a combination. It's pretty much, especially I want to say, leaving a relationship. And you're like, Sharon, what does this got to do with me running my business? What's that to do with my calling? Y'all, it has everything because we can, and I don't even know where it came from, in that we cannot separate ourselves. We cannot separate ourselves from work. And in one sense, our work can't completely, separate ourselves completely from our personal lives because we're the person, you know what I mean? So when you're the person, the more that you learn about yourself, the more that you will be able to navigate and move when transitions happen. And again, you have, especially as someone who is calling, you have transitions within your calling in and of itself. There's many different hats and there's many different storms that comes your way. And so what you want to do is that you want to be able to navigate through the different storms that you have in life. And when you empower your evolution purposely and intentionally, I'm not saying it's going to be easy per se. However, you know that you're going to get through it. And then sometimes maybe it doesn't take too long. This is one of the reasons why I do this, because for me, myself, the thing that propelled me into this is when I had a breakup and was crying for 40 days and 40 nights. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, hey, something got to give here. And I walked into yoga and then walked into yoga teacher training. And then from there, let's say now here we are, And so if anything, I want to at least help you when you're going through transitions. And again, remember, I also had, like my parents with their medical mayhem and medical mishaps and all of those things, in that they going through all of that. It's not easy. But one thing I want to say too, I like to say I've kind of always had on the hat of being well. Now, sometimes I drop the ball now. I'm not saying I was always up there, but there have been times in my life I'm like, okay, I got to make sure I do this so that I can be okay. And yoga was one of those things. And then also exercising on a regular basis too. But there are some other things that we need to be able to pull back. And so one of the things that I had noticed during my healing journey after the breakup is I was able to see certain parts of myself that I didn't know that was there. I was able to observe. And especially during that time of healing, when I came to the realization that I lost myself, I didn't know it in at the time. And you probably have heard, pull out this, if any of you who follow me, you've heard me say this before, where I was talking to one of my friends and then something of how they were saying it, and I'm like, wait a minute, I used to be that person, I used to be that way, what happened to me? Anyway, that made me realize, like, hey, there's a disconnect here. What's going on? And then also, what it did too, it made me even look at myself even more. It made me more self-aware and made me to pretty much to be able to look and see what patterns, what behaviors. But ever since then, I've definitely been on a self-care journey of just it's not that you always need something to heal from, but definitely can always be better. We can always be better. That's the main thing. But in saying that, no matter where you are, no matter what type of transitions that you may be in, there's usually some patterns that you have about yourself, whether it's behavior patterns, certain things that you say or don't say. Are you always giving in or giving up and always trying to appease other people? Is it your beliefs, your way of thinking, your own self-concept about yourself? Again, these are patterns. What are the things that you're doing? What are the things that you're not doing? Those are patterns. And so a part of self-care is paying attention to your patterns so that you can take a peep to see whether or not or there's something about you that may need to be altered. And again, this is separate from, like, say, the breakup, or separate from a job loss. It's separate, just meaning it's time for you to be able to really look at yourself, meaning that those things may have been the cause or may have been something that had initiated a change, but it doesn't mean it has to change you in a negative way. It's going to change you, but you get to decide of how it's going to change you. You get to decide that, okay? We want you to decide of how that is going to impact you, because you're the only one who has control of that. And so in saying that, how are you going to divorce your patterns, where you disable the patterns that no longer serves you and detach from them so you can disassociate from them? Because of the fact, if you have certain things about you, and not saying that, well, I'll put it like this: we all play a part. Like, for instance, after the breakup, when I was doing my healing journey, one of the things that came up was the fact, like, what is it about me that I need to change? What came up? And what came up for me, that I was yearning my dad. It's like, oh, I didn't even know that. You know what I'm saying? But I also had to look to see, how did that invisible yearning that I had, and I call it invisible because I wasn't aware of it. Because you can have certain behaviors and beliefs that you're not even aware of, believe it or not. You really can. You're like, Sharon, what does all of this have to do with the business? It has everything to do with the business, because your self-concept of how you see yourself and how you make decisions and how you move, believe it or not, has to do with your relationships, not only with yourself, but your relationships with others, not just others in a relationship, in an intimate relationship, but also in relationship when it comes to when it comes to business. Because one of the things that it's not just the yearning of my dad. The main thing that I learned, y'all, was that I was waiting. Again, I'm not conscious of this. I'm not consciously waiting for my dad, because if anything, I'm glad that he wasn't involved in my life. I really am. But that little girl inside of me was in there yearning for her dad and was waiting. And so I'm like, well, what other times in my life have I been waiting? And I can kind of see how that happens in relationship, and even like sometimes when it comes to certain things, when it comes to work, because I'm a type person, once we make plans, I don't need to hear from you anymore. I'm just saying, let's just say we have a lunch, a business lunch, or a lunch date, or whatever it may be. It can be whatever that is. It's like, why do I need to hear from you? The plan is already there. But there are also other examples that I've seen, like, oh, what was I waiting on? It's like I'm waiting to hear back from someone instead of following up. Now, there's, times in which you may need to wait, but I have seen a pattern in that. You see what I'm saying? So that is a pattern. So what patterns do you have? What patterns have you seen? And again, it doesn't have to be relationship, because again, when it comes to transitions, there's so many different transitions that you can have in your life. But again, they impact you. And with these transitions, if you are not aware of your patterns, then there will be some areas in your life that you will continue to suffer, areas in your life in which there will be, I'm going to say, some friction. You may not even notice the friction, but you can be in a state in which you don't feel understood, or not that you don't feel, but sometimes you just may not be understood. There can be some miscommunication there. And so once you at least accept the fact that there are some patterns, that there are some beliefs, some behaviors, and maybe even some biases that you have that you need to divorce, that you need to disable, because if you are carrying something from a transition, whether it's a breakup, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a separation, whether it's a job loss, whether it's even when it's a loss of someone that you love, because sometimes some individuals can get so attached. I'm just going to say, because I know that's touchy, so attached to certain aspects, and we realize it's up and down, and not in denying yourself of anything. But while we are here on this earth, you have permission to live. Because the other side of that, when some individuals are stricken by grief or bereavement so much, there could be some people around you who are counting on you. Again, you're still taking care of yourself now. Make sure of that. But I'm thinking more so about individuals who have children, especially if they have young children, in that people may still need you to live. You see what I'm saying? Not saying it is easy. So just saying not to bury anything. We're not talking about that. But we're definitely talking about when it comes to certain patterns, certain beliefs, certain behaviors and biases that you may have that may hold you back. Because even, let's just say, when it comes to grief and bereavement, it could just be a belief in and of itself. Just having a belief about certain things. Like if you really believe that your life can't go on because someone has passed, and then your life will not go on. And this is with anything in life, meaning when it comes to your belief. That's just like, for me, initially, I would say in the early stage of the breakup, and I'm talking about the early stages, probably the first week, maybe the first week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. It's like, oh, my life won't be the same. But it is true. My life won't be the same, and my life is not the same. You see what I'm saying? So you can be, oh, my life is not the same. My life won't be the same. Or my life won't be the same. And that's a process. But the sooner that you can at least acknowledge that you're going to be okay, but there are certain patterns that you have. You see a pattern, it's like, oh, okay, how did I contribute to this? What is it that you need to let go of so that you can, again, empower your evolution? Because whatever that you're holding on to, it pretty much depletes you, and it doesn't allow you to grow. It kind of leaves you stagnated. Again, especially for those of us who have a calling, because for those of us who have a calling, it is bigger than us. You do make sure you take care of yourself now, but it's still bigger than us. Because I've also seen where sometimes some individuals, again, it's almost like you're working yourself to the bone and you're not taking care of yourself, because all of this is about you empowering yourself. Because when you leave yourself out, then you will end up leaving your calling behind as well. And so you're like, well, Sharon, how can I it's like, but how can I divorce my patterns? How can I detach, disassociate, and disable my patterns? Y'all, first of all, is for you to be completely honest of who you are, where you are at that given time, and where you want to be, and who you want to be. And acknowledge that there are some patterns. I know we as humans, we like to look at ourselves in a good light. But you can still be a good person and still have flaws. You can still be a good person and still have things to work on. You can still be a good person and still just need a helping hand. And all of those things are okay. But the sooner that you divorce your patterns, you will see the light much, much better. You will see the light so much better. And again, one of the ways in which you can see the light, again, just by acknowledging where you are at this given time, of being honest. And that is how you deepen your self-awareness. Because if you're not able to do that, then it makes it so much harder. And so much harder, because there's going to be some resistance, and it's hard in order for you to I have this to work on. And it doesn't mean there's anything that's wrong with you or bad. All of that is just part of being human, y'all. Because even I had to look at myself and okay, Sharon, what do you need to do? And even when it comes to, my calling, of looking at that, of looking at where I am, and what needs to be done and how I need to show up. And so what are the things that you can do is, again, to be honest, but to be able to sit. Because y'all, you've been doing too much sometimes. And if you're not able to sit with yourself, that's going to make it even harder. And you hear me talk about being able to sit, being able to breathe. Because if you're not able to do that, you're not able to see, you're not able to hear. If you're not able to see, you're not able to hear, how are you going to get that wisdom, y'all? But one thing that I have learned is that one of the things that do help is being in community. One of the things that do help is being in a circle. One of the things that do help is being in a tribe. Even if you don't say a word, just by being in a group that can, you can say, okay, I'm going in there for motivation. I'm going in there to learn something. Whatever it is that your reason is, believe me, you're going to learn something. There's usually somebody that they can say one word that can really touch you in that given time. And y'all, especially for those of us who have a calling, being in community is so valuable. And I know sometimes some of you are in different types of community, but one of the things that I've seen that gets left behind sometimes is the community that can allow you to be well, the community that can help you move through, the transitions. And with Fortitude Free Circle, it's one of those communities. And it's kind of one of those things, even though it's not a quote unquote deep work type of community per se, there may be times, I'll put out this, there will be times we'll be having some intensive and some specialty workshops that is associated with the circle. But the thing is, it allows you to sit back, not just to relax now, don't get it twisted. It allows you to sit back just so that you can say, okay, I can breathe. what I have going on. Because when it comes to running a business, there's so many different hats. And, it depends on who you're listening to. You're getting no sleep, and we ain't having that over here. You know what I'm saying? We are not having that over here at all. We're going to make sure that you do get your sleep, because how are you going to have the energy to really do the things that need to be done, you know? And so with Fortitude Free Circle, it's one of those groups that help you to build discipline, because that's something that I see a lot. And again, there are certain disciplines I'm building within myself, and there's something that we can get better at of building discipline. And what I've seen too is either you have individuals who are heavy business minded and don't know how to take care of themselves, or who may know how to take care of themselves, but then, kind of a little bit of could use a little bit more work of organizing and things like that when it comes to the business side, because all of that has to do with our stress level as well. The other thing when it comes to Fortitude Free Circle is that we embrace challenges. We don't run away from them. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just about having a strategy. It's also when it comes to when it comes to the nervous system, y'all, because sometimes you can feel afraid, or there's nothing wrong with that. That's normal for most of the time. But the thing is, you don't want to run away for things that feels hard, especially when it comes to conversations, because when you walk away from conversations that need to be had, it may be something that may be needed for your calling, And so, if anything, it helps build you up, it helps build your resilience. And that's the thing. That's the last part when it comes to Fortitude Free Circle, so that you can sustain, resilience. And y'all, resilience doesn't come just because you went through something hard or you're going through something hard. It's the things that you're building up, so that when it comes to adversity, challenges, and difficulties, and part of it, again, is in training your nervous system, in nurturing your nervous system, and in reconditioning your nervous system. And all of that is so important. It's so important just as a human, but especially for those of us who have a calling, because there's so many different things that comes, up for us. And if you're not really taking care of yourself, you're running your battery down. And we don't do that over here. We're not going to run the battery down or anything like that. And so, for those of you who want to learn more about Fortitude Free Circle, comment circle. And one thing too, I want to add in that with the circle, there's so many different things that we offer, because we help you create that pace so that you can create that space as well, in order for you to take care of yourself. And especially when it comes to nurturing your nervous system, we have rituals that we do on Saturdays, because y'all, that's another conversation. But if we're not actively taking care of ourselves, again, you can be running yourself to the ground. And stop doing that. Seriously, y'all. We've seen it sometimes. Some of us seen it with our parents. Some of us seen it with other family members. But we all know someone who knows someone, and so in saying that, let's take care of ourselves. And we always say the community is the thing. And so inside Fortitude Free Circle is one way that you can do that. And I'll let you know more about our VIP as well. And so comment circle so that you can get inside the circle to build discipline, embrace challenges, and to sustain resilience. See y'all next time.